before we get started, I just want to acknowledge a couple people here real quick before I hand it over to our Assistant City Manager, Wendell. But I do want to acknowledge some of our executive staff. We have Sabrina Chavez, which is our Director for Community Services. I also want to acknowledge Arsenio Ramirez. He's our Assistant Director of Community Services. And then we also have Crystal Lopez, which is our Manager of Community Services. And with that being said, I do want to introduce to you guys Wendell Bugtai. He's going to be doing the official welcoming, so pay attention. And here we go.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Well, first and foremost, thank you all for being here. Let's give yourselves a round of applause for making it here today. So, welcome to the Youth Civic Workshop. So, as you know, I mean, we've got all power players here in this region. Anything you wanted to know related to, local, county, state, federal government is all represented here today. So, I don't want to take away from any of the speakers. So, I want to first introduce our city manager, Clara Miramontes, who is going to give a brief presentation.
Thank you, Wendell. Hi, good evening, everyone. So I just want to say I'm really excited to see a lot of you here tonight. I know you guys are all getting ready for Halloween tomorrow, so really appreciative that you made the time to come out here today. As Wendell said, this is a great opportunity to learn about all levels of government. Everything from the professional level workforce that supports the electeds, and you have different branches here. You have everything from the Assembly's member's office. We have professional workers that actually were the government employees who carry out the directives of the electeds, including the mayor, the city council, congressmen, have their own staff. But behind the scenes of all the electeds, there are the professional workforce where we engage. We do the everyday. We do all the research. We provide all the tools necessary for these electeds to be able to carry on the wishes of their constituents. So, you think of public service. There's many different levels, and you really have a great opportunity today to be able to listen from all these different levels of government or public government service that we provide throughout the state and the nation. Also, we're also going to talk to you a little bit more about voting and trying to engage the youth from the very beginnings when you're able to vote. I don't know if you know, but last midterm elections, only 22% of the youth voted. That's age groups 18 to 29. So it's really important. We have a big election next year. We have a general election, so it's very important that you, your parents, your family, anybody you can reach out to, do try to engage them. We're also going to provide a little bit of what we do here in the city from our deputy city manager, and it's an example of how we carry out the wishes of our electeds. So you'll hear a little bit about today, everything, so please take it in. Have any questions, please ask questions to any of us at the end. So thank you very much, and now I'm going to introduce our mayor, Mayor Michael Vargas.
Tan, tan, tan. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here. And as the assistant city, I already demoted her. As the city manager indicated, she's going, so that's what the mayor and the council does, and we have Councilman David Rapp behind us back here. We basically set the tone on how things are going to run in the city, and that's why we have a city manager, and her have to do what we tell her what she needs to do. So that's why we're going to let her staff get the presentation on what it is our directives are and what they do, and that's how we lead the city. And then, of course, you'll start moving out the channel from state to county to state to federal. So absorb this. My understanding, you're behind this project. So thank you very much, Lupe, one of our planning commissioners. And of course, thanking our staff for helping to put this together. But this is, like it's already been explained, you're probably going to hear more and more and more, but absorb all this information. It's good to know. You need to understand public service and what electeds do, because we're basically here working for you. And it starts from this level all the way up to the federal. So enjoy it. If you have any complaints, let Arsenio know.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's give it up for the mayor. So next, talking about policy and what the city does from a legislative standpoint, a policy standpoint, I do introduce our Deputy City Manager, Ernie Reyna. We're working on a couple things, and one of the things he's working on is a Measure A, and he'll give you an update on what we're doing with that.
Thank you, Wendell. All right, so as been mentioned before, one of the things that we do at the level, so Deputy City Manager Ernie Reyna, one of the things that we're doing here is putting together what's called Measure A. Measure A is something the city formed because it was based on needs. Something, as you look around, what is the things that we kind of need are roads. Roads get broken, they need to be, it's expensive, okay? The city cannot maintain the roads based on the money that we currently have now. So in order to do that, we have to look outwards to the residents of Paris. So your parents may have already received in the mail a little ballot that says, voting day is next Tuesday, but you also receive information in the mail that says Measure A, here are the facts about Measure A, what it is, why we're putting it together, that type of stuff. So this particular measure, what it is, and okay, we got this up here. So what it is, it's gonna bring in money for the city to the tune of $4 million a year to help pave those roads that are broken, and broken by a certain type of business, industrial businesses, the warehouses that are out there that have the big trucks. Okay, those big trucks are the ones that break the roads, that cause the damages to them. So the city alone does not have enough funds to pay for those roads. So in order to get more money, we have to ask the residents, your parents, those of you that are 18 and older, do you want the city to do this? And so the way it works is that it's a business license tax. So those industrial businesses that have businesses here will come into the city, and when they renew their business license on an annual basis, they'll be charged a certain dollar amount based on the square footage of their building. I don't want to lose you guys. I'm going to stay very high level, so that's all I'll say on that much, okay? So that's how we're going to raise the $4 million. If enough people vote yes on this measure, okay? It takes 2/3 of everybody voting to approve this. So that's why it's vital that we get this message out and to you. So this is what this Measure A is. It's raising $4 million a year. If the voters say yes, then once that happens, then we'll collect that money. That money will then be put together, and then we'll be able to fix these roads. So we don't have enough money in what's called our general fund to fix these roads on our own. There's only something that can go around. And what I want to talk to you about is how cities raise money and how we get that money. So I put together a few slides. Again, I don't want to bore you, but I just want to kind of tell you how this works with the city. Because from a finance, this is important for you guys to understand how we get money. And so there's two basic ways that the city will get money: through sales tax and through property tax for the most part. So what the city of Paris gets when you go out and buy something in the store, and we're very proud to say that here in Paris, we do not have a sales tax increase. So what you pay is 7 3/4. You go to our neighbors, to Riverside, to Menifee, to Moreno Valley, they've all enacted a 1% sales tax increases, which means you'll pay more there. So here, when you do that, of that 7 3/4, we're gonna get 1 cent of that. So that's how we pay for some of it, also on property. So who's doing the, thank you. So I mentioned property tax. Now property tax is the other one. That's based on assessed value. In other words, how much is your house worth? You end up paying 1% of that. So that money goes to the county, comes back to us. Can you go to the next one, please? Next slide. So again, I mentioned these are the two main ways the city gets money. So outside of those ways, how do we get more money, additional money to fix roads that we don't have money for? Well, we have to ask the voters, hey, is it okay? Would you do this? Here are the facts. We need more money. It's on the ballot. Vote yes, it's going to get approved, and then we'll raise the additional money. Again, election day is next Tuesday, and that's what we're looking at. So here's what we have, though. 1,200 businesses, 80,000 residents, and then continuing, use of these roads. These roads get damaged, so there's a lot of projects that are going to be out there, and there's only so much money to go around. So now the way to do this is by asking the residents, the voters, please approve this, measure. Next slide, please. And so this is funding for the public roads. Plain and simple is what it is. So, and if it's approved, like it says, it'll provide $4 million annually for the improvement, operation, maintenance, repair, and restoration of the roads. This is why it's important. It's a special business license tax. Again, it's charged when the businesses come in on an annual basis to pay for that business license tax. They'll pay it at that point. And only those businesses, only the big box warehouse people that are out there and the industrial people, they're the only ones that are going to pay this tax. And Again, it would establish that if it is approved for 30 years, the voters would say yes for 30 years, it would continue on for that mark, and after that, it would sunset and it would stop. So over the course of those 30 years, we're looking to raise $120 million because we know that over those 30 years, our roads are going to continually be broken and need to be refixed and paved and whatever. So we're asking those businesses to pay for the damages they've caused. That's what it is. And again, Election day is next Tuesday. So next slide, that might be the last one. Okay, that was it. You can back up. So at that point, I'm going to leave it at that. Sorry. So I hope I didn't bore you, but there you go.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you so much. I know that was a lot of information, but it was very good information. So I'm sure that if you guys have questions moving forward, feel free to reach out to staff. You can reach out to Antonio right here. And if you really want to talk to Ernie, we can make that happen. But take this information back with you in case your parents have questions. You can educate them on what we spoke here today in Measure A. So with that being said, I want to introduce you to Antonio. He's going to be talking about local government, what happens here at the City of Paris.
Yeah, thank you, Juan. We're here to talk about local government here in the City of Paris. I'm the legislative analyst here in the office. Thank you. So to start off here, the City of Paris was actually incorporated in 1911, and it's named after Fred T. Paris, who was a chief engineer for the SoCal Railway Museum. And for over 112 years, the City of Paris has been providing optimal quality of life, or optimal services to enhance the quality of life for the city. So you guys may ask yourself, okay, we're talking about the City of Paris, how is everyone here in office? So we have a directly elected mayor that's elected at large, and we have actually two council members that are elected currently by district, and then we'll have 2 council members elected by district in the 2024 election. And they each also serve 4-year terms, and we also have, which isn't common now here in the Riverside County, but we also have an elected city clerk. And then we have a council manager form of government. As you guys saw before, our city manager spoke. So our city manager is appointed by the mayor and city council to conduct business and oversee all city operations. Now here you can see who represents everybody. We have our mayor, Michael M. Vargas, who spoke earlier. We have our mayor pro tem, Maricela Nava, and our council member, Malcolm Corona, council member David Starrab, and council member Rita Rogers. It's important here to highlight that our mayor pro tem is actually a rotating mayor pro tem, so each year we have a different mayor pro tem. Now to talk over our core services here in the City of Paris, we have our administration team, and they oversee maybe front counter services as well as like our IT department, making sure city business is conducted properly during our meetings and our social media. We also have our human resources department, making sure we have a top-tier personnel that fills each position in the city. And as we have spoke about earlier, finances as well, we want to make sure we have a balanced budget and all the expenses here for the city are used properly and making sure we have a high quality of service in the city. Then we have our development services department, and our development services department encompasses our planning, building, economic development, making sure other key businesses are also brought into the city as well or retained. One business to highlight, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen, is our In-N-Out that's coming up. Very excited to see that. And then we also have our community services team, make sure you have different parks and recreation, different facilities in the city. We have our Statler Youth Center, which I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with. And as well as we have our senior center as well, because the City of Paris serves everyone from the tiny tots all the way up to our seniors. And they also do a great job with their recreation as well at the Bob Glass Gym or the different parks. And moving on, we have our infrastructure was really our public works and our engineering team. It's a great time here in the City of Paris. We're actually bringing our engineering team in-house, and they're gonna make sure we have a great infrastructure here for the city. That upkeep, whenever you're walking around or driving around the city, you see something, you're able to use that as well and report that. We're using our city app too to make sure everything is fixed. And then in continuation, we have our public safety, which the city contracts with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. And also for fire services, the city contracts with CAL FIRE. And then moving on, we're gonna be talking about we spoke about right now about the city level. Now we're gonna move on to the county level, local government. We have a Supervisor Kevin Jeffries, who represents District 1 here in the county. And the county level is a slight level above, so we have different areas. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, we have communities like Mead Valley, Good Hope. They represent the unincorporated areas. And what we have a lot here in the city as well is a lot of people come to the city and they're asking, hey, how do we address this issue? And sometimes their address could say Paris, but then it's in the unincorporated area, so you want to refer them to the right resource that the county offers. And that's where the supervisor's office comes in and they have their staff to work on this type of casework and constituent correspondence. And they also have, the department of the county is much larger. They serve, I believe, around 485,000 residents. And that includes Wildomar, the city of Paris, the city of Riverside, and various other areas as well. And they oversee many things, including even the Department of Child Services, tons of other things where also the elections, the Municipal Riverside Register of Voters, and they do a great job here in the county representing all of us. And I want to pass it on now back to Juan.
Thank you, Antonio. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I know that was a lot of moving parts to the city that you live in, but it's all information we need to know, especially in any city that we live in. It's important to know how our infrastructure works at the city that we live in. So thank you, Antonio, for that. Moving on, we are going to have a representative for Senator Ross' office. And actually, no, my mistake. It's going to be Assemblymember Dr. Corey Jackson. He's actually present here today, so yeah. So you guys are in for a treat. So Assemblymember Dr. Corey Jackson represents our district, and it is my pleasure to introduce him to you guys.
What's up? How y'all doing? Doing okay? You awake? Good, good. I remember, I'm not going to tell you how long ago, I remember when I was in a room just like this, and it was my senior year in high school. I grew up in Rialto, so I graduated from Rialto High School. And I attended my first career day in city government. And I spent the day with the city clerk that day. And for the first time, I realized I can do this too. And then I realized that some of the very same people grew up in their own communities, and they too began to get involved in their communities. Some of them went off to college and came back to be able to serve. And it's our hope that you'll be willing to do the same thing. Number one, know that you can do these jobs too. You can do them too. Number two, they're not smarter than you. You're smarter than me, right? But you can do these too. And then lastly, I would just say that it's important for you to know that as long as you have a heart to serve and not be afraid to work hard, you can actually be someone that can drive the quality of life in your community. All right? Do you believe that? Do you believe you can do it too? It's not by accident that you're here. Someone saw something in you, right? And you can make sure you can do what is necessary to represent folks. I've been blessed to be able to be chosen by the voters to represent you in Sacramento. And I want you to first know that I work for you. I work for you. Most importantly, I work for your parents, especially if they vote, right? And it is my job to understand what you're facing, what your families are facing, what your community is facing, and go to Sacramento in order to cast votes on your behalf. This year, there was over 2,000 bills that I had to vote on your behalf. And I had to determine, was this good for you or bad for you? Or I could say, well, they don't care either way, so whatever it may be. But my job first is to not only vote on legislation, but to also propose legislation that will improve your quality of life. okay? So this is what's important to know. The state government is to look out for the safety and welfare of the residents in any particular state. And anything else that's not in the United States Constitution of what Congress is supposed to do. So that's about things like education, healthcare, right? Public safety. Anything that has to do with most of the things that you deal with every day. Okay? So my first job is legislation, either proposing it or voting for it. My second one is to actually be an advocate, to make sure that whatever they're debating in Sacramento, that I make sure that they are thinking about the way we do things here in our community, what we're facing. Yeah, we care about streets, but let me tell you about what we do on our streets, right? Yeah, we care about freeways, but let me tell you about why freeways may be important or less important to us. Yes, we care about education, but these are the issues that our young people are facing in education, right? My job is to speak up to making sure that you are getting what you need and they are thinking about another part of the state that they may not be representing either. Then my job is to also to help to advocate for and to approve our annual state budget, right? And usually what happens in the state or legislature has more of an immediate impact than what might happen in Congress, for instance, right? Meaning, if we don't approve a certain amount of money in education, you may not have the teachers in your classroom. You may not have as many days in the classroom. You like those after-school programs? They may not be there if we don't fund enough of that. You see what I'm saying? If we don't fund enough in terms of health care, there may not be, the wait might be longer when it comes to you being able to go to the hospital, right? There may be more people than necessary in the emergency rooms. All of those things we do in terms of the state budget. Now, you've heard that California is the 5th or the 4th largest economy in the world, meaning the budget that we approve every year is larger than most countries. There's only 4 other countries that have a bigger budget than the state of California. Think about that. All right? So that means that it's a lot of money. We're talking about billions of dollars. And we have got to figure out how to make sure we understand it and prioritize it. Okay? The next thing is constituent services. Our job is to make sure that the state agencies are treating you properly and having good customer service. So one thing that most people that don't know, all right, and when you start to drive, does anyone drive yet? You drive, okay, all right. Does your parents know you drive? I mean, that's an important question too. I mean, hey, you know. So when you go to see if you called the DMV for an issue, all right, and you don't think you got the right response, or they treated you didn't get the right service, you could actually call my office, and we can call them for you to make sure that you are getting the information that you need, right? And you'll find out there's a lot of state agencies that you will begin to interact with when you get older. And when you have issues, or even if your parents are having issues with a state agency, it's important that they know they can call my office, right? And when my office calls, they don't get an answering machine, right? They talk to a live person whose specific job is to make sure that when we have an issue, that they take care of it on your behalf. okay? So remember that. That's what I mean. We work for you. Put us to work. And then lastly is community engagement. My job is to also make sure that you know that my office is very accessible to you. Why? Why is it accessible to you? Because I work for you. Come on. It's okay to believe it. All right? So my job is to make sure that people know who we are and how to get a hold of us and to make sure that we're at different events. Why? Not because to promote me, but to make sure that you know that you can touch us. You can talk to us, right? And we can let you know all the available resources that are available as well. So that's what my job is as a state legislator. And what other people don't know is I'm actually in Sacramento more than I'm at home now. Okay? So out of 365 days, how many days do you think I have already spent in Sacramento? 200? Pretty close. Any other guess? What did you say? You know I'm talking to you. 265. Pretty close. So far, it's 230 days. Out of 365 days, I'm in Sacramento more. So I live basically part-time in Sacramento, okay? And my job is to fly back and forth to make sure that I stay engaged, all right? And that's my job. That's what I do for you. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Assembly Member Dr. Corey Jackson. Appreciate that. What you guys need to do after is make sure you guys get a business card so we can put them to work, okay? Yeah, for the youth, that's right. So we got our next office here. We have a representative here. We have Ricardo Guerrero here. He's gonna be giving you some information on what his office does for our district. So help me welcome Ricardo.
I know it's late in the day. Everybody wants to go home. No, I'm kidding. I am Ricardo Guerrero. I actually work for the State Senator Richard Roth, just kind of like Dr. Corey Jackson explained. Ultimately, is the other side of the House. He's Assembly, he's Senate, same representation to that of the district. So his district is District 31. Our main office is located out in the Riverside area, and we do cover basically the surrounding cities. Moreno Valley, Paris, Mid Valley. You'll see mainly those events because my areas as a representative for him are my areas to cover will be Paris, Moreno Valley, Mid Valley areas. So with that said, just kind of like Dr. Corey Jackson explained, ultimately what our job is, they can't be everywhere at once. He does have a team, as Dr. Corey would have as well. So there are we have 3 offices technically. We have one in Riverside, located right downtown. We also got one in Fontana, as we're right now covering the Difford area until the new senator comes in and takes over that area. And of course, there's Capitol staff up there. There's a legislative staff that ultimately helps out the Senate, helps out Senator Roth. I am located out in the Riverside area that ultimately here helps you. So with the constituent services, that's ultimately what you do, kind of like it was explained. When you call to our office and you say, or when your parents, you can also call, you can call me, feel free. But when you call to the office and say, I have an issue with so-and-so state agency, and you say, I'm from Paris, you're gonna get me. So I'm the one that ultimately will help you out with advocating for you in order to make an inquiry or that connection wherever we need to in order to help you out with that agency and push it as far as we can. That goes also, we have connections and our partners are also with the County of Riverside and other surrounding agencies, the cities. I'm sure the cities eventually get tired of seeing my emails coming in sometimes, but that does happen and that's what we're here ultimately for. I do have brochures ultimately. Feel free to come over and get them. Well, I'll pass them out eventually. They are at your service. I know they're a little cheesy. But kind of ultimately, we'll explain what we do as an office. Again, I am here ultimately to represent you. I'm here to help you out. I'm here to connect you as well with the voice for the voice, if that makes sense. So if there's any issues as to any bills that being said that your parents might not be like, no, I don't want to vote. I don't want him to vote for this. you give us a call. We do pass on that word to the senator, so the senator can review whether taking your information as well, so they can make a sound decision when it comes to voting for the bills that go and pass through the Senate, and that will eventually go to the Assembly and eventually to the to the governor. Yes, yeah, you see. See, he's a man. I'm just a little guy over here. He knows it all. But ultimately, in the nutshell, that's what we do here with the senator's office and what I do as a district representative, especially for the city. All right.
Ricardo, appreciate that. Thank you so much. Moving on, we have our next presenter, which is the representative is Karina Tomayo, and she's going to be speaking to you at the state level. She's a representative for Governor Newsom's office. So help me welcome Karina.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas tardes. It's so great to be here with you all today. And nice to meet you. I'm Karina. I'm the Inland Empire Deputy Regional Director for the Governor. And I have the pleasure, you see someone here joining me. So I would like to give Yesenia the opportunity to introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. I am interning with Karina at the External Affairs Regional Department in the IE. And my name is Yesenia, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it on.
And we promise we did not plan this because Yesenia was selected, I think, about 2 months ago or so to be part of our internship program. And, I told her, you should come along because our youth should hear from you. It's been maybe a while since I've been in your shoes, but I know Yesenia is much, closer to your experiences. And being here from Paris, I think it's amazing that she's representing the governor's office. So we thank you, Yesenia, for the work that you do, and a resident from here as well. Alrighty, so to get started, there's a nice picture of our team, External Affairs, and just to be mindful of time, I'm just going to discuss the work that we do in External Affairs, but can anybody guess how big the governor's team is, any of our youth? 149. So we have a communications department, we have constituent services, External Affairs, we also have a digital team, we have emergency services, we have a ton of departments, and together we make up about 149 employees. But our division, External Affairs, is made up of 12 regional 12 representatives within our 5 regional offices located one here in Riverside, Fresno, Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco. And the role that we have is to ensure that our community's voices are uplifted. Governor Newsom is the first governor to have a fully staffed External Affairs team. And we have almost 40 million residents, so that's extremely important. That we have our regional offices who can uplift what are the needs here, in our regions. As we know, the needs of the Inland Empire are very different from Los Angeles, from San Diego, so we need to ensure, as Dr. Jackson and our leaders are doing an amazing work, up in Sacramento, we need to ensure that our offices are also supporting that work. So here's a little bit of an overview of our legislative process. Dr. Jackson gave a little bit of a overview, but in January, we start the legislative year. Legislature convenes first week of January. In February, the date is just determined for the last day for bills to be introduced. August 31st, last day for the legislature to actually pass bills. And then by September 30th, all bills must be signed into law by the governor or vetoed. The governor can also sponsor legislation, which this year we were very busy. The governor sponsored various bills, whether it was mental health, ensuring that we're holding big oil accountable, and among other really important issues. So our team was supporting that effort throughout the year. But as Assemblymember Jackson shared, there's often over 1,000 to 2,000 bills that end up at the governor's desk, and within about a month, he has to make decisions whether to sign those bills or veto them. So it's a long process, but an important part of the work that he does. The budget process, January 10th, the governor does announce his budget proposal. By May, he announces his May revision of the budget. And during that process, the legislature has various budget hearings, budget committees happening where they have the opportunity to give their input on what they want to see the state budget ultimately look like. So there's a lot of negotiations that happen between the governor's office and the state legislature to ultimately come to a final conclusion on our state budget, which is signed by the end of June. And I wanted to just share some more fun pictures of some of the work we've done. So within external affairs, of course, we support the budget process and the legislative process for the governor, but one of our most important roles is that we support the governor when he's traveling throughout the state. So we've the honor of having the governor here in the Inland Empire various times, but of course, he's traveling up and down the state, whether it's press conferences, whether it's meeting with our local community stakeholders, coming to tour different projects that have been state funded. So these are some different pictures of some of those events. We also have the opportunity to host our state officials, whether that is our state secretaries or other state officials. Our Secretary of Appointments, Catherine Rivera, was just here to talk about the appointment process and how we can get more individuals from the Inland Empire on those boards and commissions to ensure we have that equitable representation. So in that picture right in the middle, you'll see we have our mayors there, and you'll see a familiar face, Antonio Villaraigosa. He was appointed by the governor to serve as infrastructure advisor when we were trying to pass through an infrastructure proposal. And he came here to hear what the infrastructure needs are of our local cities. So as you heard earlier, infrastructure is a big piece. And we need to ensure that our local mayors and local electeds' voices are reflected on those final decisions. Lastly, I want to just highlight our internship program. So as you see, Yesenia is here with us today. And how many of you knew that the governor has interns? Okay, a few. Okay, perfect. So this is a really important part of our office. So each of our regional offices has about two interns every either quarter or semester. So as I shared this quarter, I have the honor of hosting Yesenia, but I've hosted various interns throughout the year. And we have interns from up in the high desert, from the mountain communities, from here, Riverside and Paris area, all the way, throughout the entire state. But here, is a little bit of an overview of what our internship program is about. And it's really meant to connect our youth and our college students with state government and really showing you what it's all about to be in state government. As others have shared, you're here for a reason. It's not by accident. And if you have an interest in any of these roles that you've heard of today, the door's there, for you all to take that opportunity. And we're here paving the way, but I know many of you will be in our positions fairly soon and be making a difference as well in those various roles. So this is just one other opportunity to serve in state government. Interns must be enrolled in a college or university. So once you're, it could be a community college as well. So if you're in a community college or a four-year university, you're welcome to apply for our internship program. And with that, I would like to just pass over the mic to Yesenia. If you could share just a little bit about the projects you've done so far. I know you've been with us for about a month or so, but I definitely want to make sure that our youth gets the opportunity from you.
So, hi everyone. As Karina mentioned, I have been interning for them for about 1 month now, and just seeing how if you didn't know, I also work here at the City of Paris, so I see how the local government works. And now I'm taking a look at how the state government works and just communicating with a bunch of different partners that work for the state, asking about funding or doing different projects. It's overall a really fulfilling experience. And I think if you're really interested in that sort of field, it should be something you guys can take a look at. I did want to share a little bit about my education. I did go to community college, so a lot of people think that right after you graduate high school, you go straight to a four-year institution, and your pathway is not always linear. So if you're worried about what other people are doing, or if you're not taking the right steps in the right direction, I think it's always about moving forward and being able to always constantly be improving yourself. So I go to community college, and that's when I came about this internship experience. And at first, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, I'm just going to submit my application, take a shot for it. And I came across the interview. And as you can see, I did get the internship, and it's provided me with a lot of experience in talking with people, and it has been really fulfilling. Currently, I am a business administration student at UCR, and that's a little bit about what I do. So if you guys have any questions about school applications like college, financial aid, or anything of that, I am willing to help you guys out. I know it may be a little bit of a daunting process, transferring or going to a new school. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me? Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Yessie. I think that might have came to surprise to a lot of the YP kids to see Yessie in the office after YAC meetings. But Yessie is proof that you guys have these resources like at your fingertips. So take advantage of them, okay? Karina's here, Dr. Corey Jackson's here, representatives are here. Take advantage of it if you guys are interested in that stuff, okay? Moving forward, our next office that's going to be representative is Congressman Mark Takano's office. Unfortunately, couldn't be here, but we do have Antonio, which is really good at everything. So he's going to cover this.
No, it's actually interesting because a fun fact about me, one of my first internships was actually with Congressman Raul Ruiz back in Hemet, California. So I do have some knowledge about the federal level too. Yeah, I know working on the different casework and constituent correspondence there too with his office. And it's interesting too because at times the federal level is maybe something big, you know, it's on Capitol Hill. How do you navigate that area? But you have those resources too in those district offices too to help out with them. Quick question for all you guys. I see, how many House of Representatives are there in the United States? Come on, I know you guys are taking government civics class. Come on. It's going to be on the next quiz probably too. Oh, no, man, it's way more than that. All right. No, it's actually 435 U.S. representatives we have here. And California actually has the most since we're one of the biggest states. We have about 54. And it's really important to know because you think about that. It's so many people and getting all those people to come to an agreement. Oh, that's what our congressman does at the federal level. He's over there, he's sponsoring bills, he's co-sponsoring bills, working on that Capitol Hill, making sure we can continue and have the government functioning at the federal level. And also kind of in a way that it also impacts us here at a local level too. We do have different appropriations that come in from the federal government too. And we work through with the federal government to make sure one key facility that's also being funded here in the city of Paris is actually expanding the Bob Glass Gym for those classes for the tots. But it's also, the congressman, I think he is a lot more challenging too, because he's not going to Sacramento. He's going all the way to Washington, D.C., back and forth. That's a lot of travel for him, and he does a great job representing us here in the city of Paris as well and the surrounding areas. And I think one thing we also just want to highlight is to really the legislative process at the federal level, kind of similar to the state level in a way. But like I said, it's a much larger scale. So over there, if you want to vote for something in the House of Representatives for it to pass, think about it, 435 people voting on that. About half of that, what is around like 270, you need all those people to come to a concise agreement. But it's also very important, they're accessible as well in their district offices. If you send them a letter, they'll respond to you and they'll get back to you. I remember one of my first assignments in government was writing a letter to an elected official. I was super excited. I think that's what got me into local government too. I remember sending a letter to our representative and I was like, okay, well, you know, I have this concern. What about, can we get more funding for schools? And then they got back to me and they explained how the whole process works. And it's just another resource for you guys to have to be advocates. But all right, we'll pass it on to the next person.
Thank you, Antonio. Moving on in the agenda, we want to be mindful of your time. So we have the Association of Professionals and Students, Lupe Gomez Barrera. Like the mayor said, we've been working with them, partnering up with them to provide this workshop for you guys in previous years and moving forward. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to work with Lupe. And with that being said, help me introduce Lupe.
Thank you so much for the welcoming, everyone. I really appreciate it, and thank you to city staff to put this together. We've been doing this now since 2018. Of course, the pandemic, didn't allow us to continue within those few years. But just a little bit about my background. I've been a city resident since the early 2000s. And I'm originally from Fontana. I graduated from Fontana High School a long time ago as well. And I started, I received an invitation to reach a higher education back in 2004. And that was with the Association of Professionals and Students. And since then, I took a path to get a higher education, and I started at the community college. And fun fact, I just saw a familiar face up there, and it just dawned on me. I have a picture when I walked to get my diploma when I graduated from RCC at that time, and it was Mark Takano's hand that I actually, shook, and I still have that picture. And so you never know, how close you are to your actual representatives, and in the future what that's going to bring. And now here we are, bringing this information to you. So my goal as the director for the Inland Empire chapter for APS is what we call it, is to bring information that I feel is necessary for the youth, especially to encourage them to receive a higher education and go for a higher education. How else are you going to do that unless you understand the different roles that are out there for you? And so one year, I reached out to our council member, David Rabb, and I said, hey, I'd like to interview you, get some more information, if you can come and, support this Facebook Live that I'm gonna have for our nonprofit. We're gonna talk about the importance of voting. And that's how it all began. And then we extended it to my co-director at the time and myself. We put this PowerPoint together. Of course, it's really nice now. It has all bells and whistles and everything. But we had our very, straightforward PowerPoint, and we were actually taking it to different cities. We went to Redlands, we went to Coachella, and we were using the local representatives in those cities so that those community members knew who they were voting for and how the voting process worked. And so it's gotten now to this point to where here with the city of Paris, we started off in a little room in the back at the Bob Glass Gym, and now we went to the Statler Youth Center here at your little location, and now we're here in council chambers, and I'm very excited to continue to see this grow on a regular basis. And there's so much more that I want to say, but we've already gone over time. But what I do want to do, just a moment, just I brought over a volunteer from our association, and I wanted him to share just a little bit about himself and how important voting is for him, because in the end, that's the goal, and that is the 100% the reason why we're here today, is to let you know how important it is for you to register as early as the age of 16 years old. You can register, and then when you turn 18, you can go out and vote. So I'm gonna go ahead and present to you guys Benjamin Flores, or Ben, and he's just gonna give you a little bit about how APS has impacted him and the importance of voting. So please help me give him a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Flores. I am from San Bernardino, actually. I went to Cajon High School over there, and I grew up with my parents working at my dad's machine shop, working on cars. And that's kind of how I decided to pursue engineering as a career. I think I'm here to kind of advocate for college, as well for voting. So I'm going to try to simultaneously do both. I was fortunate to get accepted to UC Santa Barbara. I worked with my dad fixing cars, and I kind of realized that I didn't want to do that always. And so I was like, maybe it'd be cool to design the cars. And so that's what led me to kind of pursue higher education. I didn't know what engineering was at the time. I Googled it. I found someone at APS that was 4 years older than me, a structural engineer. And he's like, and he's the one that helped me with like FAFSA. I thought you had you needed to be rich to go to college, but actually there's financial aid. So 16-year-old me was very surprised at that time. I didn't know that was a thing. So I encourage you to talk to those that are maybe a few years ahead of you, like already have gone through the process and are kind of already applied and have gone through it. I was fortunate that at USP they started a Promise Scholar program where you get a full ride if you are low income. So it was the first year they did that, and that made the process very easy. because of that, I didn't have to worry about the financial aspect. I was able to do an internship in Germany as well with a material science program. And there was a lot of opportunities there that I was very fortunate and took full advantage of. In high school, I regret not doing so many things, like trying in different extracurriculars, but then in college, I tried to apply myself more. And now I'm fortunate that a few years after college, I work in San Diego for Apple. I'm a mechanical design engineer. So I work specifically on iPhones, but it's only been a year. Okay, now to the voting aspect. So my first major election was 2016. So that one was very interesting, to be positive. Yeah, so that was very interesting. I was 18 at the time, and yeah, I guess we all expected. I don't know. It was just very. It was when the elections were coming in. I was studying for midterm the next day. It was 1 a.m. As you know, the time is different when it was coming, and the results were coming in. It was just the university had it was just a very interesting time, and yeah. So I encourage everyone to definitely get involved early on. Your voice and vote has impact. Also do your research. Kind of when that time comes around, you got to spend hours in doing your research on all that because it's very important. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ben, for sharing your story. And I thought it was really impressive to hear about this. I've known Ben's mom for a while, and when he reached out to us and he wanted to volunteer, I was like, hey, where are you working? Or what do he's like, oh, I work for Apple. Well, what do you do? I'm a structural engineer. Or where did you go? I went to UC Santa Barbara. What? Oh my goodness. It's like, so, you see the outcome of what you do. And so, for me, it's important to see that his success encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing as well. And so that's why I'm here today. So enough about APS. Let's go ahead and move forward on our topic here. So we did have an official representative from Mark Takana's office today. I love Antonio because he has facts. He is a numbers guy. If you haven't noticed, he is numbers. I think he has a photographic memory because very good at that. So I'm going to introduce you to my son. So, but yes, you have your representatives that represent your community, and you vote for your representatives every 2 years, every 4 years, as November comes around. Right now, we have Alex Padilla, who is one of our state senators, and LaFonso Butler, who has been appointed, yes, for our late Senator Dianne Feinstein. And for me, that means a lot because I remember hearing Dianne Feinstein since I was a child. So she was a great senator, and she's been around so when I heard of her passing, it actually did affected me a little more than I thought. Okay, so let's go back there really quick. So you have 2 U.S. senators per state. You have a total of 100 senators that represent our country. And let's see, Mark Takano again, that familiar face. So the winning total for our nation or for the United States is 435 seats of representatives. California has 54. We went over that earlier. I went up. I went backwards, didn't I? All right. So we all know our 46th president, Joseph Biden. And we have, let's talk about the Electoral College just a little bit, okay? So before we go ahead, we see that numbers here. When I was a kid, I heard a lot about, oh, your vote doesn't count when it comes to voting for president. There's a big misconception. Of course it matters. Why? Because when you do your local voting, you're voting for those representatives who are going to place their votes for the next president of the United States. So it's very important at the local level to understand who is representing you. We mentioned earlier that California has 54 electoral votes. It's one of the highest population states, and I'm very proud to be living in the Golden State. You have Texas with 40, And have you guys heard when they mention on the news a swing state? Yes. So when you hear the swing state, what is that? What do you think that means? Do you want to share what you think that means? You look very excited. Go ahead. You are? Okay. Yes. Very good. Excellent. Yes. Absolutely. Good. Round of applause. Good job. So yes, your swing states are very important because they can go either blue or they can go red. So those are the states that you hear. Oh, um, the president is visiting certain states for his campaign. They're going to these certain states, and he's at this swing state. I believe there's only a few swing states, but they're the ones that can go from one election to another. They can go blue or they can go red. California is not really one of those states, but have you heard when a state goes purple? It doesn't go blue, it doesn't go red, but it goes purple. Have you guys done that before? Yeah, because it can go either way, right? Or the popular vote is really close to being either Democratic or Republican. So that's another interesting. The more you listen, the more you know, the more interesting it becomes. And then they have these beautiful graphs, and they have bar graphs, and they have different colored graphs, and they make it look really pretty, but it's actually really interesting when you start to watch it. Maybe actually almost as interesting as a football game. I don't know. So the popular vote was established by our founding fathers in the Constitution. There are 538 electors, which makes up the total electoral college. There's 270. It takes 270 electoral votes to win the majority, right? To elect the president. Once you get to that number, that's when you get the call. Either you concede or you win, and we know who our next president's going to be. So each state is entitled to a number of electors equal to the number of U.S. representatives, plus 2 for the number of U.S. senators. In California, again, we have 54 electoral votes in California, and these electoral votes are selected around October 15th, and there's an actual election code for the Republican and Democratic parties. So we have an election year coming up. This year is not a presidential election, but next year will be, right? So you don't have those every year. But this year, whoever's up to vote, you can vote for those elected officials in your area, in your county, in your city, who are going to represent you, right? Who's going to be your next council member, who is representing your district, because now that we've been from general elections to district elections here in the city of Paris, it's important to know them. They also, just as Dr. Corey Jackson mentioned earlier, they work for you. They are elected by you. They work for you. Reach out to your council person. And if you have any questions, just like I did, I made a connection years ago, and that continues on today. If you have any questions, your parents need assistance, you can reach out to them, and they would be more than happy to provide you the next steps. Why? Because that's what they signed up for, right? It's a service. And to be able to serve your community, which is our motto with APS, my profession at the service of my community, is what we strive for. It's not easy because it's not about it being it's not about having a monetary compensation. It's really about service, especially when you're an elected official and you're on the clock 24/7, and email them, reach out to them on social media. What are the opportunities? Karina here was explaining how there's internships. There's internships, even you guys know about, the youth advocacy group here in the city of Paris. I mean, I think that's a really great opportunity. And I honestly wish I had known about it when my son was a teenager and he was actually in the process, before he became an adult. Now he comes and goes as he pleases. But definitely really good programs within the city. So how do you vote? You can vote as early as the age of 16. Okay, if at school they're saying, hey, register to vote, come by your counselor's office, register to vote, you can do that. You can't vote at 16, but you can definitely walk out there and vote when you turn 18. And I remember when I first voted, I actually voted for, a long time ago, I voted for Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a long time ago. But you'll never forget your first election and the first time you put your ballot in the box. Do your research, as was mentioned earlier, very important, and make sure you turn up to vote, make the time to go. If you're working, a lot of companies, if not all of them, do encourage you to go vote before you clock in, or just make time for it, and encourage your parents to vote as well. All right, so we have our Q&A. Any questions before I hand the mic over back to Juan here? No? All right, everybody, take a deep breath. We're almost done.
Yes, we're hanging there, guys. We're about to finish. Before we wrap it up, though, we wanted to open up the floor to you. Do you guys have any questions? No questions? Who was the one that answered on the swing states? Maybe this will encourage you guys to ask a few questions. Right before your question, though, and before we wrap it up, I want to bring up our council member, David Starr-Rabb, just to say, because you were instrumental in putting this together and also encouraging us. So I'll go to you if you want to just say hello.
Be extremely brief. Just want to remind everyone, Measure A will be on the ballot November 7th. Tell your parents, vote yes on Measure A. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. As previously mentioned, the member of the City Council, District 3, 2022 was our first year for district-wide elections. No one ran in any of the seats for District 1, District 3, or for City Clerk, so there wasn't an election last year. In previous years, the city was elected at large, so Councilwoman Rita Rogers, Councilman Corona are technically still serving their at-large terms until if they decide to, are reelected or seek reelection in their respective districts. So we were one of the last cities to do that. So as City Council, we meet twice a month, second and last Tuesday of the month. You're more than welcome to come. We will be canceling our meeting tomorrow due to Halloween. So I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween, and I hope to see all of you great people and beautiful faces at our next City Council meeting, which will be November the 14th, Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. So yes, we have a question. Go ahead, and who's your question to?
It was more of like a general question. But some of the stuff we heard today, it was kind of new to me, or it just kind of came as a surprise. And I'm 18, I'm a senior, and so for that to be a surprise, so I just kind of wanted to know, what could we do as youth to kind of have an outreach to our peers so that they could be more informed of this as we were today?
I think Ms. Gomez, you can probably answer that the best. It over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So that was a really good question. Just to make sure I have it right, you want to know what you can do in order to encourage your peers to go out and vote, and the importance of voting as well, right? You can reach out to me. I would love to put together a PowerPoint, whether for your neighborhood or, bring them here to the Youth Advocacy Committee. Bring them here, Are you part of the group here? Oh, there you go. Bring them on, invite them in. Once they're here, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I'm sure that they have a chance to meet their representatives as well, their local representatives, and I'm sure that the staff will be able to answer those questions. When you have a need and you want to know something, definitely reach out to your local management, the city or your council members, and they can put something together for you as well. I personally saw a need that we needed something like this, and I brought it, and here we are today, right? A few years later. If you want some kind of program or you want information on something also, you can also reach out to your council member, and they'll be able to assist you with that. You can also reach out to your school counselor, but I do have business cards if you want to talk about it more offline.
Thank you. All right, guys, we have time for one more question. If anybody wants to ask before they leave.
Hi, my name is Julie. I know that you mentioned earlier that California has the fourth biggest economy or the fifth. Yeah, I was just wondering if that also just meant allocation of resources or if it was just to do with like money and that sort of thing, like just like that kind of question.
Dr. Jackson, since you brought it up, I'm going to hand over the mic to you.
Sure, thank you for that. That means how much money we generate and spend, right? So that means that through various tax dollars and other revenue generating mechanisms that California does, and how much money we actually will spend as well. Now, we do have, constitutionally, there was a time where we were not making good financial decisions, which means that there were times where we couldn't pay for we would spend so much one year that in another year, when the economy was going down, we had to make a lot of cuts to a lot of programs, quite frankly, that could actually save people's lives. So now, constitutionally, we actually have a rainy day fund. So not only are we bringing in money and spending it, but we're also saving money as well to making sure that whenever there is an economic downturn, we're able to weather the storm without making any drastic cuts. So that's what it means when we talk about we're the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world. But it also means this, and this is interesting, and this is why it's so important for young people to vote, right? And that is because even though we're the fourth largest economy in the world, there's economies that are smaller than ours, but they still provide universal health care, right? It depends on what the priorities are, right? And according to the culture of any country or anything like that. So it's not about just how much money we bring in and spend, but what are the priorities that we're choosing to do so? And the fact is this, the more young people vote, the more we tend to adopt new ways of doing things, right? So when you don't vote, the less likely you might like how things go. There's a direct correlation between who votes and what actually becomes the priorities of the nation or even the state, right? And what's important to know also is that you see all the things that are going on, right? There's another war going on now, all of those things. And at some point, your representatives are going to be voting on how much money should we be spending on those wars, right? Or should we be spending it at all? So these are real life and death things that start with voting, okay? And if you want young people, your friends and family to get involved in voting, make sure you say that you vote. A lot of times we don't say to each other that we vote at all, right? Which is why sometimes now you see people wearing stickers that I voted and all that stuff. It's trying to normalize those things. And not only that, you can even pick days where when you become 18, you guys all decide to go vote together, right? Make it something, right, that's something you're proud of and something that is just your basic responsibility to do.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. I want to thank our youth for coming out, YAC, thank you. I also want to thank all our speakers for coming out today, and a special thank you to our staff who helped put all this together. So we'll see you next year. Good night.